dynamic pricing, Baloch separatists, Gravitas cuts out the clutter. Gravitas keeps calm when others scream. Gravitas brings news to life. Weekdays, 9 p.m. IST, 3:30 p.m. GMT. Gravitas. Seeing is believing.
Vielleicht nur als 5%.
Hello and a very warm welcome. You're watching Gravitas with me, Molly Gambhir. Let's get started. Our top story tonight is about tensions spiraling up in different parts of the world. From Pakistan, where the Baloch militants are making Pakistan's army bleed, leading to a situation that almost resembles a war zone, to Ukraine, where Russia's revenge blitz is leaving Ukrainians without power. Has Ukraine's incursion backfired? China's latest provocation. Japan says a Chinese military plane violated its territorial airspace for the first time. It is calling the move a serious violation of its sovereignty. We decode the developments for you. We also tell you what's happening in Sri Lanka with Indian and Chinese warships docking in Colombo. All this and more lined up for you tonight. Baloch rebels are making Pakistan's army bleed. Over 100 people have died in the last 48 hours in Pakistan. Among the dead are 50 personnel of the Pakistan Army, 1 police officer, 35 civilians, 13 militants. These numbers are being internally circulated among the senior officials in Pakistan, but they haven't published it. Is it the worst casualty the Pakistan Army has suffered since a full-scale war? Are we then to consider that what's happening in Balochistan is nothing short of a war? Perhaps it is a war that Baloch groups have launched on an oppressive army, a war on exploitation. Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif is calling the attacks an attempt to drive a wedge between Islamabad and Beijing. It all started on Sunday night when militants blocked a highway in Balochistan's Musakhel district. They reportedly offloaded passengers from trucks and buses, checked their identities, and then one by one shot the innocents. We have visuals from Musakhel, but before we play them out for you, I must give you a trigger warning here, as what you will see next is extremely disturbing. Like you can see, militants have also set vehicles on fire. Not too far from Musakhel, a railway bridge was blown up in Bolan district. This led to the suspension of rail traffic in Quetta. Reports say 10 people, including 4 paramilitary officers, were killed in Kalat district. As per reports, 40 armed personnel died in the Lasbela district. Pakistan's Interior Minister Mohsin Naqvi has called the attacks part of a well-thought-out plan to create anarchy in Pakistan. The Baloch Liberation Army has claimed responsibility for the attacks. In a statement, the BLA said it had launched an operation on highways across Balochistan. The group claims to have targeted only security personnel. A little after midnight on Monday, the BLA warned people to stay away from the highways. The group said hundreds of its fighters and 7 suicide bombers were involved in the attacks. What do we know about the BLA? The group's aim is to get independence for Balochistan. Its prime targets include the Pakistani military and Chinese officials. But why has the BLA picked arms? This is where Balochistan is on the map of Pakistan. It is in the country's southwest region and borders Afghanistan and Iran. Balochistan is Pakistan's largest province by size. It accounts for 44% of the country's landmass. Balochistan is extremely rich in natural resources. It has copper, gold, coal, natural gas. Despite all of this, Balochistan is Pakistan's poorest province. Why do you think that is? As per one estimate, Balochistan accounts for only 4.5% of Pakistan's GDP. It also accounts for just 14% of Pakistan's national road network. Remember, we are still talking about Pakistan's largest province. Baloch groups say their home is being exploited by authorities in Pakistan and foreign firms alike. As some of you know, Balochistan happens to be home to some major China-led projects. The Gwadar port, for example, which the Chinese have leased for 40 years. This port has come under attack by Baloch groups in the past, the most recent attack being in March this year. Also, in March this year, 6 Chinese engineers working on a dam project were killed. China also operates a gold and copper mine in Balochistan. Time and again, Baloch activists have highlighted that the people of Balochistan have neither benefited from nor have had tangible gains from the Chinese projects. Instead, Baloch fishermen say that Chinese trawlers near the Gwadar port are engaging in illegal fishing. They are exploiting local sea resources. So are these attacks that we are witnessing part of a war against exploitation? In a televised address to the cabinet, Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif said the attacks were meant to stop CPEC. Listen in.
Terrorists want to stop China-Pakistan Economic Corridor and other development projects going on in Balochistan and other parts of Pakistan. The terrorists' main motive is to drive a wedge between Pakistan and China.
CPEC stands for China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. It is part of China's Belt and Road Initiative. The CPEC begins in Kashgar in China and it ends in Gwadar. Under CPEC, China has reportedly committed development work worth $65 billion. Following the recent attacks, the spokesperson for the Chinese Foreign Ministry, Lin Jian, said China is ready to further strengthen counter-terrorism security cooperation with Pakistan. Listen in.
We have taken note of the relevant reports, strongly condemned the terrorist attacks in question, and expressed our deep condolences to the victims. China is firmly opposed to all forms of terrorism and will continue to firmly support the Pakistani side in promoting counter-terrorism operations. China is ready to further strengthen counter-terrorism security cooperation with the Pakistani side in order to jointly maintain regional peace and security.
But you see, the story is not just about China or its role in the exploitation of Balochistan. The story is about Balochistan. Over the years, the province has seen enforced disappearances, extrajudicial killings, abuses by security forces. As per Pakistan's own estimates, there have been at least 2,752 cases of enforced disappearances in Balochistan. Civil groups say some 7,000 people have disappeared from Balochistan between 2022 and 2024. And that's not all. There has been a spike in the cost of basic items in Balochistan. I'm talking about basics like wheat, medicines. The people of Balochistan have been protesting for years at a stretch. Recently, the BYC, or the Baloch Yagjeti Committee, had called for a Baloch national gathering in the Gwadar port city. The idea basically was to highlight human rights violations, resource exploitation, and Pakistan's failure to provide basic necessities to the people of Balochistan. The protest resulted in clashes. People died. Some protesters were taken into custody. Last year, Baloch protesters marched from Turbat to Islamabad. They were protesting custodial killings and fake encounters. The police cracked down on these demonstrations, but nothing has changed. Their concerns have not been addressed. The frustration is for everyone to see. Last year itself, there were 170 attacks in Balochistan, 170. While violence is never an option, one hopes that as Balochistan becomes a headline around the world, and these attacks put the spotlight on the exploitation of Balochistan, authorities in Pakistan are made to answer tough questions. Shifting focus for now. Is Russia once again turning winter into a weapon? Is Russia's recent attack on Ukraine a calculated strategy to adversely impact the country's energy infrastructure? We ask these questions because Russian forces have relentlessly targeted the country's energy infrastructure this week, plunging many parts of Ukraine into darkness. With temperatures expected to drop in Europe from next month onwards, the war has dragged on for 2 years with several twists and turns. The latest attacks are making Ukraine go dark. Russia's revenge blitz is leaving Ukrainians without power. As per reports, Russia has systematically attacked Ukraine's energy infrastructure, aiming to bring the country to its knees by depriving its people of the basic necessities: electricity, heat, water. On Tuesday, another barrage of Russian drones and missile attacks were reported across Ukraine, reportedly killing at least 4 people. Ukrainian Air Defense said it downed 5 Russian missiles and 60 attack drones after Moscow reportedly launched a total of 91 projectiles, including 10 missiles and 81 Iranian-designed attack drones. According to Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky, Russia used more than 90 aerial targets, including missiles, and 81 drones against civilians and infrastructure. Now, this attack comes just a day after Ukraine was bombarded in one of the biggest air attacks of the war, with more than half of the country's regions targeted. As per reports, on Monday, Russia attacked Ukraine with more than 200 missiles and drones, killing 7 people and striking energy facilities nationwide. Russia's defense ministry said its forces used high-precision weapons to strike important energy infrastructure in Ukraine. The U.S. National Security Council spokesperson John Kirby also said that Russia used over 100 Iranian drones, targeting more than 24 Ukrainian critical energy sites. As per multiple reports, one of the main aims of the attacks on Ukraine by Russia is to deprive the country of electricity as winter approaches. Remember, last winter, the grid in Ukraine was pushed to the brink of collapse. And now, with the winter season looming, the specter of another humanitarian crisis seems to be looming as well. Ukraine's energy minister, Herman Halushchenko, on social media claimed that Russia is once again terrorizing Ukraine with missile strikes focused on energy infrastructure. That's what he said. Also saying that the enemy is not abandoning plans to deprive Ukrainians of electricity. But the question is that all that Russia seeks to achieve? Or is there more to this? Is the aim to not just conquer territory, but to also break the spirit of the Ukrainian people? You see, at the start of the month, Ukraine's situation was much different. Ukraine forces brought the war to Russia's doorstep, marking the first time since World War II that any foreign country had entered Russian territory. The offensive had heavily lifted Ukrainian morale, and the incursion was seen as a potential bargaining chip for Zelensky in the expected ceasefire talks in November. Experts said that the bargaining chip seems to be a difficult objective at this point. Rather, it has left the defense of eastern Ukraine vulnerable and on the verge of collapse. As per reports, Russia has not only maintained its presence in the east, but has also bolstered the defense of Kursk with conscripts sufficient to hold the line in Kursk, while seasoned Russian troops continue their advance in eastern Ukraine, with reports on Tuesday stating that Russia has captured a village near Ukraine's key hub of Pokrovsk. Russia's defense ministry stated that their forces had captured another village in the eastern Donetsk region near the city of Pokrovsk. So Ukraine's hopes of using the Kursk move as a bargaining chip and the quest of lifting the morale of the people with an incursion into Russia seems to have backfired. With Russia's revenge now crippling the lives of ordinary Ukrainian citizens. Remember, in March this year, Russian forces intensified their assault on Ukraine's power stations. At one point, they destroyed over 80% of the country's thermal electricity production. Ukraine, on its part, fought back, targeting Russia's energy infrastructure in retaliation, setting oil facilities ablaze with drone strikes. It reached a point where the two countries negotiated through intermediaries like Qatar to halt these strikes. But reports state that the talks were derailed by Ukraine's incursion into Russian territory in early August. As Russia's missiles rained down, the impact is being felt far beyond the battlefield. As per reports in Kiev, power has been cut in several districts, leaving parts of the capital in darkness. Water supply has been interrupted in Lviv and across the country. The state railway company has reported power outages that are delaying commuter trains. In 6 regions, more than 13,000 subscribers are cut off from the grid, their homes and businesses plunged into darkness. And the situation is also dire in parts like Vinnytsia, Donetsk, Zhytomyr, where enemy shelling has left thousands without power. In Zaporizhzhia, technological disturbances have compounded the crisis, and in Odessa, a storm front has added to the outages. In total, over 25,000 consumers in 45 settlements across the Kherson region are without electricity. Russia's defense ministry has made no secret of its intentions, by the way. On social media, they said that their forces had launched a massive strike using long-range precision weapons targeting critical energy infrastructure across Ukraine. The list of regions affected includes Kiev, Vinnytsia, Zhytomyr, Khmelnytsky, and others, including Mykolaiv and Odessa. Gas compressor stations, electrical substations, storage sites for aviation weapons have all been affected. Ukraine's state energy operator, meanwhile, has reported that repair crews are working round the clock to restore power. But for how long can these repair efforts actually hold the line against relentless assaults by Russia? It's anybody's guess. And what happens when they can no longer keep up? Regardless, it is clear that Russia's aim is to leave Ukraine powerless, both literally and figuratively, as winter sets in. In response to the attacks, Ukraine has been forced to implement emergency measures to limit energy consumption. The state electricity distributor has rolled out scheduled blackouts across the country, urging citizens to conserve electricity wherever possible. The energy deficit remains, and the threat of further attacks looms large. The Ukrainian energy system is on life support, and every new strike from Russia is a step closer to catastrophe. How can Ukraine's economy survive when the very infrastructure that powers it is being systematically dismantled? Now look at what Pakistan's all-weather ally is up to. China is provoking Japan. Tokyo says that a Chinese spy plane invaded its airspace and flew over Japan's Danjo Islands. This is where these islands are on the map. They are in the East China Sea, about 160 kilometers from the main island of Kyushu. Also, in case you are wondering, the Danjo Islands are not contested. So what was a Chinese spy plane doing there? Japan says China sent a Y-9 reconnaissance plane and it flew over Danjo Islands for around 2 minutes. This happened on Monday between 11:29 and 11:31 a.m. local time. Observers believe the Chinese Y-9 was probing Japan's air defense network. It was likely collecting intel on Japan's radar signals and coverage. This was the first breach of the Japanese airspace by the Chinese PLA.
This is the first time we have confirmed and publicly announced a breach of our airspace by a Chinese military aircraft since we began taking measures against acts violating our airspace. Such airspace breach by Chinese military aircraft is not only a serious violation of Japan's sovereignty, but it also threatens our security, which is utterly unacceptable.
In response to the airspace breach, Japan scrambled jets. It also summoned an official of the Chinese embassy. What has China said? The spokesperson for the Chinese Foreign Ministry said China has no intention of invading a foreign airspace.
Regarding the incident you mentioned, the relevant Chinese authorities are investigating and verifying the relevant situation. The two sides have maintained communicating through existing working channels. I would also like to emphasize that China has no intention of invading the airspace of any country.
But how true is that? Anyone following developments in the South China Sea or the East China Sea will tell you otherwise. While this is the first time a Chinese military plane has breached Japan's airspace, it is not a first for a Chinese jet. In the year 2012, a Chinese oceanic administrative plane entered Japanese airspace. In 2017, a Chinese Coast Guard drone violated Japanese airspace. Also, here's something you must know. Chinese fighter jets regularly approach, and I repeat, approach Japanese airspace. The situation is so bad that in the last financial year, Japan had to scramble jets 479 times to confront Chinese planes, 479 times. These many incidents of jets scrambling in a year, that's more than once a day. Now a Chinese military plane has breached the line. It has entered the Japanese airspace. Is this the first of many to come? Japanese officials say they are preparing for the worst.
In recent years, Chinese military activities near our country have been increasing. The government will continue to pay close attention and monitor such activities by the Chinese military and be fully prepared for any airspace violation.
Is Japan also preparing for a full-scale confrontation? Perhaps a war? Japan, remember, is the closest ally of the US in this part of the world. Tokyo is bound to get pulled into any war that America is part of in the Indo-Pacific, be it a war in the Taiwan Strait or in the wider South China Sea for that matter. Japan is also part of the Quad, remember, along with India, the US and Australia. In August 2023, Japan, South Korea and the US signed a trilateral agreement agreeing to elevate defense collaboration. This includes conducting an annual joint military exercise, sharing defense information. Let me read out for you what US President Joe Biden said with regard to the trilateral agreement. I'm quoting here. Together, we are going to stand up for international law, freedom of navigation, and a peaceful resolution of disputes in the South China Sea, quote unquote. China and Japan also have an apple of discord. They are called the Senkaku Islands. These islands are 1,900 kilometers southwest of Tokyo. They are 330 kilometers from China's east coast, and both the countries claim the Senkaku. These are uninhabited islands, by the way. They are surrounded by rich fishing grounds. Chances are they could potentially be oil and gas deposits near the Senkakus. In 2012, Tokyo bought parts of the islands from a private Japanese owner. Beijing protested. And as things stand now, Japan administers the Senkaku Islands, but Chinese vessels regularly enter waters near the Senkakus. Beijing, by the way, calls these islands WION. Is Beijing also preparing to go to war over these islands? Your guess is as good as mine. And what's happening in Sri Lanka? There is a reason I asked that question. On Monday, an Indian warship docked in Sri Lanka. This is the guided missile destroyer INS Mumbai. It docked in Colombo. The Indian warship is on a 3-day visit to Sri Lanka. And this is the first time INS Mumbai has docked in Sri Lanka. But guess what? What else? Docked in Sri Lanka on the same day. A Chinese naval fleet, not a warship, but an entire fleet. This includes amphibious dock landing ships, Wuzishan, Kilinshan, and a guided missile destroyer named Hefei. What are they doing in Sri Lanka? China is calling it a technical visit. The Chinese PLA Navy says the ships were conducting joint exercises with Tanzania and Mozambique. And now they have docked in Sri Lanka for resupply. But what really explains the timing of the visit? During the time that the Chinese fleet will be docked in Sri Lanka, the crew of INS Mumbai will be conducting joint activities with the Sri Lankan Navy. This includes sporting events, yoga session, also a beach cleanup. Personnel from the Sri Lankan Navy paid a visit to INS Mumbai upon arrival. The former were given a briefing on operational practices. And what's more, INS Mumbai is also delivering essential spare parts for the Dornier maritime patrol aircraft that was inducted into the Sri Lankan Air Force 2 years ago. Now, just tell me one thing. Is it just a coincidence that a Chinese fleet has shown up around the same time when all of this is happening in Sri Lanka? China does not like the sound of this question. The Chinese mouthpiece Global Times, in fact, is calling the scrutiny over the timing a quote-unquote extension of the China threat theory. I'm reading from the article. The Global Times quotes an observer from China's government-funded Tsinghua University as saying, and I'm quoting here, given the relatively frequent military interactions between India and Sri Lanka, I think the simultaneous docking of Chinese and Indian warships in Sri Lanka is a coincidence, quote unquote. Both the Indian warship and the Chinese warships will be holding separate, and I repeat, separate passage exercises with Sri Lankan warships. The date of these exercises coinciding as well. Both will be on the 29th of August. It also happens to be the date when the Indian warship and the Chinese warships will depart Sri Lanka. Our next story is about the protests over the Kolkata rape and murder. The streets of Kolkata in India today witnessed violent scenes. Security forces detained protesters as crowds clashed with the police personnel. These were protests over the rape and murder of a trainee doctor in a state-run hospital. The protesters were marching to the West Bengal Secretariat, seeking the resignation of the state chief minister Mamata Banerjee over the rape and murder of the trainee doctor. They pelted stones. The police used batons, fired tear gas shells and water cannons to disperse the protesters, who threw stones and bricks at the security forces and attempted to topple barricades. Protesters broke through the iron barricades set up on the route of their march to the West Bengal State Secretariat, resulting in a baton charge by the police. The police said they started lathi charging and tear gassing after the protesters breached barricades at some locations and attacked security personnel. The protest was organized by the student outfit Paschim Banga Chhatra Samaj. The ruling party, the TMC, says the protests are politically motivated. According to the Kolkata police, the student outfit was not given permission to organize the protests. The BJP has called for a 12-hour general strike in West Bengal on the 28th of August to protest against the police action on those who took part in the march to the state secretariat. Let me now tell you about another incident that has sent shock waves across India. A 19-year-old nursing trainee was allegedly raped by an auto rickshaw driver in Maharashtra in India. A 19-year-old nursing trainee. This is just heartbreaking and infuriating, to say the least. The victim had reportedly taken an auto rickshaw ride home when the driver offered her drinking water. Reports say the water was spiked and the teenager lost consciousness, after which the driver allegedly took the victim to a deserted place. Angry protests broke out in the area. An FIR has been registered. Police are scanning the CCTV footage as per reports to zero in on the accused. Earlier, remember, we also told you about another incident in Maharashtra. 2 minor girls were allegedly sexually assaulted at a school in Badlapur. Police arrested an attendant of the school for allegedly abusing the girls. Angry parents of the school children earlier staged a blockade. Hundreds of angry parents and local citizens came onto the tracks at the Badlapur railway station. On August 17, the police arrested a school attendant at the school for allegedly abusing 2 girls studying in the kindergarten. As per the complaint, he abused the girls in the toilet of the school. The girls reportedly told their parents that the attendant touched them inappropriately, following which a complaint was filed and a case was registered against him under the Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act. The thing is, the list of cases is long and the anger is only mounting. My question is, what is it going to take for things to actually change on the ground for women? For them to be able to leave their homes without fear, to not be afraid of being violated, for parents to not be worried about their daughter's safety when she steps out. The annual Notting Hill Carnival in London once again reportedly saw a surge in violence, with reports of 8 individuals being stabbed and over 300 people being arrested. At least 3 are reportedly critical. Our next report getting you more.
This is the Notting Hill Carnival. It typically draws over 1 million attendees and faces significant challenges each year, with incidents of violence overshadowing the festivities. As per reports on Sunday, the first day of the carnival, 3 stabbings occurred including a young mother who was with her child at the time who remains in critical condition. The violence escalated on Monday with 5 more individuals stabbed, 2 of whom are also in a critical condition. The police reported that during the 2-day event, a total of 50 officers were injured. As per reports, the arrests made during the carnival primarily involved the possession of weapons and drug-related offences. On Sunday alone, the police made 104 arrests, while Monday saw an additional 230 arrests. Among the more concerning incidents were 2 attacks where victims suffered slash wounds, and 1 case involved the use of a corrosive substance. The police also recovered 3 firearms and made 49 arrests related to other weapons. The Metropolitan Police described the carnival as a challenging event to police, citing the dense crowds as a significant obstacle to maintaining order. The organisers of the Notting Hill Carnival issued a statement condemning the violence, emphasising that such actions do not represent the spirit of the carnival. Adding that the carnival is not just about the parade, music and costumes. It also contributes significantly to London's economy, generating an estimate $480 million annually. As per reports, the police and event organisers have been working together for months to ensure the safety of the carnival. Measures included giving officers greater stop-and-search powers and the authority to remove face coverings in an attempt to curb potential violence. The level of violence at this year's event has led to concerns about the future of the carnival. Each year, there are reports of multiple incidents of violence. At last year's event, there were reports of 8 stabbings and 275 arrests. Led by the members of the British Caribbean community, the first ever Notting Hill Carnival took place in London in 1996. It is an annual Caribbean Carnival event that takes place on the streets of the Notting Hill area of Kensington every year in August.
The Indian government has reportedly launched a major investigation into Telegram, examining the platform's potential involvement in criminal activities like extortion and gambling, as per reports. This probe could result in a ban if the findings warrant it. Telegram, which has over 5 million registered users in India, is under scrutiny for its role in facilitating these illegal activities, allegedly through its messaging service. The investigation into Telegram's operations was triggered by the recent UGC NEET controversy, where the medical entrance exam question paper was leaked and widely shared on the platform. Meanwhile, Pavel Durov, the founder and CEO of Telegram, remember, was arrested in Paris on the 24th of August. French authorities detained him due to allegations that Telegram's lack of moderation contributed to criminal activities on the platform. This arrest has further complicated matters for Telegram, with Durov facing charges linked to insufficient oversight of criminal activities on the application. Durov's arrest has sent shockwaves through the tech world and raised questions about the future of Telegram. The company has denied any wrongdoing and has expressed confidence in a swift resolution of the situation. The fallout from Durov's arrest has been significant in the crypto world. Tongcoin, a currency associated with Telegram, saw its value plummet by 18% following the news. The broader impact of these investigations and the legal troubles continuing to unfold, with Telegram's future in India and its financial stability remaining uncertain. Shifting focus now to Sri Lanka. The country is less than a month away from electing its next president, but there appears to be no clear winner as of now. As the country gears up for this pivotal event, let's just get to the key contenders' profiles and what they actually bring to the table and the promises that they have made.
The upcoming presidential elections in Sri Lanka are set to be a defining moment for the island nation. There are several prominent figures vying for the top position. Who are the key frontrunners? First, we have the incumbent president Ranil Wickremesinghe. A seasoned politician with a long history in Sri Lankan politics, Wickremesinghe was the former leader of the United National Party. His tenure as president following the 2022 presidential elections has been marked by efforts to stabilize the economy and address debt crises. His campaign focuses on continuing economic reforms and strengthening international relations. Vikram Singh's supporters highlight his experience and ability to navigate through complex economic challenges. However, critics argue that his policies have not yet fully addressed the urgent needs of ordinary Sri Lankans. Next, we have Sajith Premadasa, the leader of the Samagi Jana Balawegaya. Premadasa is the present leader of the opposition, a former minister and son of a former president. He presents himself as a candidate of change. His platform emphasizes social welfare programs, youth engagement, and economic empowerment. Premadasa's campaign appeals to those seeking a fresh direction and greater focus on social issues. His critics, however, question his ability to deliver on ambitious promises and the effectiveness of his proposed reforms. Another notable contender is Anura Kumara Dissanayake, the leader of the National People's Power Movement. Dissanayake is known for his strong stance on anti-corruption and his commitment to grassroots development. His campaign centers on transparency and equitable distribution of resources. Disanayake's appeal lies in his focus on addressing corruption and promoting social justice. However, his campaign faces challenges in reaching a broader electorate and translating his principles into actionable policies. Various independent polls show Dissanayake in the lead, with the country's youth heavily leaning towards his policies. However, those who remember the country's late 80s uprisings of the JVP are hesitant towards casting their ballot in favor of Anura Kumara Dissanayake. Since 1982, Sri Lanka has had 8 presidential elections. In all those 8 instances, there was a clear winner who was declared president of the nation after securing a 50% majority. As of now, many analysts and experts are talking about a high probability of neither candidate securing a majority. As election day approaches, 17 million Sri Lankans who are eligible to vote will be weighing their choices carefully. Each candidate offers a distinct vision for the future of Sri Lanka, and the outcome will significantly impact the nation's path forward. The upcoming elections are crucial for Sri Lanka as the country navigates economic recovery and political reform. The frontrunners have diverse platforms, and voter preferences will ultimately determine which vision resonates most with the people. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
August 27 marks 42 days since the French President Emmanuel Macron accepted the resignation of the former Prime Minister Gabriel Attal's government. However, Paris is still waiting for a new government to take over. This as the political stalemate over who will actually hold the reins of power continues, and there seems to be no end in sight. On Monday, Macron rejected to agree to a government led by the left-wing New Popular Front Alliance, or the NFP. It won the most seats in last month's legislative election and has proposed Lucie Castex, a little-known civil servant, for the position. Well, Macron said France needed institutional stability and the left could not win a confidence vote in the parliament. In a display of protest, France's socialists and Greens have decided not to participate in further talks with Macron to find a way out of the political deadlock. Not just this, their leaders have called on protesters, or rather the supporters, beg your pardon. They've called on the supporters to hold peaceful protests instead. The Green Party chief, Maïn Tondelier, told a local radio that this election is being stolen from us, quote-unquote. Meanwhile, the Socialist Party president, Olivier Faure, told France 2 television he would not engage in what he called a parody of democracy. Now, the prospect of a leftist-led government was off the table. In the latest, Macron has held a new round of consultations with political groups earlier today after 2 days of failed talks. However, the president again appears to be back on square one as each of the 3 groupings ruled out forming a coalition. The June 30th and July 7th snap elections resulted in a political stalemate as no group emerged with a majority. To win an outright majority, a party or coalition needed to secure at least 289 of the National Assembly's 577 seats. The New Popular Front secured 188 seats. Macron's centrist Ensemble Alliance stood second at 160, and the far-right National Rally came in third at 140. Think you've seen it all in the world of sport? Wait till you hear this story. You may know a lot of players who have switched teams, but do you know of a player who has played for two teams in the same match? Some of you may say yes. Well, let me throw you a curveball here. Do you know of a player who has played for two teams in the same match and in the same innings? You heard that right. Meet Danny Jansen, who has earned himself a unique slice of history and an ultimate Major League Baseball trivia answer. Are you confused? Well, let's break it down for you. Jansen was batting for the Toronto Blue Jays on June 26th when their match against the Boston Red Sox was suspended due to rain. The game was rescheduled for 26th August, that's last night. Now, before the months could pass, Jansen was traded to the Red Sox, whose owners also owned football giants Liverpool Football Club. After a delay of 65 days, 18 hours and 35 minutes, Jansen was back at Fenway Park to complete that match. The only difference being that he was turning up for the Red Sox and not for the Blue Jays. Jansen was behind the plate for his new side. And this meant the Blue Jays had to put up another batter, pinch hitter Dalton Varsho, in his place. Jansen's former side, the Blue Jays, won the fixture 4-1, and he became the only player to appear on both sides of a baseball box score. Now, this is not the only baseball story that has made global headlines recently. A jersey worn by the legendary Babe Ruth sold for $24.1 million at an auction, making it the most expensive piece of sporting memorabilia ever. Ruth is widely regarded as the greatest baseball player of all time. He was infamously traded by the Boston Red Sox to the New York Yankees in 1920. In fact, he wore the jersey in question while playing for the Yankees during Game 3 of the 1932 World Series against the Chicago Cubs. But here's the reason why the jersey is so iconic. It relates to a famed episode where Ruth pointed his bat to the outfield stands before he hit a home run off Cubs pitcher Charlie Root. And therefore, it's called short jersey. The previous record for sports memorabilia was held by a baseball card of Mickey Mantle, which was sold for $12.6 million in 2022. Now, our next story is all for music lovers. After a 15-year-long feud, 1990s British rock band Oasis is officially getting back together. Band members teased an announcement saying that they are planning shows in the year 2025. As per reports, the shows are planned at Heaton Park in Manchester, where the band was formed in 1991, and at Wembley Stadium in London in summer 2025. The band, whose debut album Definitely Maybe was released 30 years ago, and they split in 2009. A tour in 2025 would mark the 30th anniversary of the second album, What's the Story? Morning Glory. For those unaware, their second album went on to sell more than 22 million copies worldwide, becoming the best-selling album of the 1990s in Britain. This moment, by the way, also marked the band's breakthrough in the United States. And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of Gravitas Tonight. This is me, Molly Gambhir, signing off. Thanks for watching.
Namaste. Hello, friends. We did Dr. Subhash Chandra's show popularly known as DSC show, for 4 years, from August 2014 to August 2018. 28 states of Bharat. Of course, we reached out to all of you in 190 countries across the world. The show was very successful. Each episode was being watched by almost 25 million people every week. For past 6 years, the demand of the show has never died down. People write to us, people ask for the show to restart again. Hence, we are beginning the show once again on All Z Network, also on WION, which is the global network channel from India. Again, thank you for your love and affection. See you soon at Subhash Chandra Show.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at yoursarthi@such.org.in.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
WION, India's global voice. The channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One.
Everyone loves a contest. But sport isn't just about victory and defeat. When the GOATs in sport speak, you hear it first on WION.
You have to play good cricket over a period of time.
I actually pushed myself right out of the damn tournament.
We go beyond the stats. Our stories are quoted the world over.
At WION, sport is part of our DNA. Come, join us on this journey. Weekdays 6:30 p.m. IST, 1 p.m. GMT.
Know more? Understand better? Think ahead. Hello and a very warm welcome. You are watching Gravitas with me, Molly Gambhir. Get the facts, not the bombast. On the 26th of March, dynamic pricing, Baloch separatists, Gravitas cuts out the clutter. Gravitas keeps calm when others scream. Gravitas brings news to life. Weekdays 9 p.m. IST, 3:30 p.m. GMT. Gravitas. Seeing is believing.
Ready to dive into your daily dose of news?
Bringing you what's trending in the West and all that's setting trends in the East.
And all of this served up with a side of insightful banter.
We don't just bring you the latest stories.
We bring you your talking points for the day.
And while you do that, from the busy streets of New York, I will provide you with deeper insights on the developments through the course of the day in the US.
And I will be here at the WION headquarters, getting you all the action from the universe of sport. all that you need to know about your favorite teams and players right here.
The show that keeps you ahead of the global curve. A conversation you'd want to be a part of.
A place where news becomes an engaging exchange.
We bring you stories that impact your present.
This is World DNA.
Join the conversation.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
Everyone loves a contest. But sport isn't just about victory and defeat. When the goats in sport speak, you hear it first on WION.
You have to play good cricket over a period of time.
I actually pushed myself right out of the damn tournament.
We go beyond the stats. Our stories are quoted the world over.
At WION, sport is part of our DNA. Come, join us on this journey. Weekdays 6:30 p.m. IST, 1 p.m. GMT.
WION, India's global voice. The channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One.
Know more, understand better, think ahead. Hello and a very warm welcome. You are watching Gravitas with me, Molly Gambhir. Get the facts, not the bombast. On the 26th of March, dynamic pricing, Baloch separatists, Gravitas cuts out the clutter. Gravitas keeps calm when others scream. Gravitas brings news to life. Weekdays 9 p.m. IST, 3:30 p.m. GMT. Gravitas. Seeing is believing.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch. Everyone loves a contest. But sport isn't just about victory and defeat. When the goats in sport speak, you hear it first on WION.
You have to play good cricket over a period of time.
I actually pushed myself right out of the damn tournament.
We go beyond the stats. Our stories are quoted the world over.
At WION, sport is part of our DNA. Come, join us on this journey. Weekdays 6:30 p.m. IST, 1 p.m. GMT.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers? Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
Everyone loves a contest. But sport isn't just about victory and defeat. When the goats in sport speak, you hear it first on WION.
You have to